Hello, my name is Carmen Jones. For my final presentation, I decided to present about cannabis. Um, so, to start off, for some background information, cannabis was first used by the Chinese Emperor Shang Nung in 2727 BC. It spread from the Middle East to the Western Hemisphere in 1548, where they started using it for fiber. Um, and then it later spread to North America, where it was considered hemp, and they used it for ropes, food, clothing, paper, etc. Um, Male cannabis plants are known to be taller and thinner, whereas the female cannabis plants are darker, shorter, and have more pubic hairs on it. Um, Cannabis plants thrive in like tropical and humid areas. Um, there are multiple forms of cannabis, as many of us know, but the most common forms are hashes, which is mainly used in the Middle East, North Africa, Pakistan, and many other places. Um, they use this, they break it up. Some people even put it in like a pen, like oil form, into a pen and they vape it. But most times they use a whole form, break it up, put it into a pipe, and they smoke it that way. Um, as most of us can guess, the second form that is very common is marijuana. This is used amongst all populations. It is common everywhere. But the surprising fact about it is that it is most commonly used within foods. Um, so, yes, those are the two most common forms. To move on to the social correlation of cannabis, THC is a major component in cannabis. This is used as a way to help people become more relaxed and less anxious where they are. Um, so, as you can guess, cannabis is mostly used as a mind and a body agent amongst all ages. Um, per studies and data online, um, cannabis is most commonly used in social gatherings like social events, and then obviously in people's free time. Um, Cannabis is most commonly used between the 18 to 24-year-old age range. Um, Cannabis is recreational. I think we all understand that aspect of cannabis, but it's also used for medical reasons. Some of the main ones that some people know is like insomnia, body aches, anxiety, chronic illnesses, and etc. Um, Studies do say that when people use cannabis in a private setting, such as their home, they feel safer and they feel more comfortable and relaxed when they're using it. More so because it's in controlled environment, they can control what's going on at that point. Um, so on the reverse side is that in public places, oftentimes when people use it, after the after effect, instead of them being more relaxed and less anxious, it has the adverse effect and it makes them more paranoid. And now they're looking at everybody skeptically. Um, so here's that. Some trends about cannabis. There aren't many like super big historical trends when it comes to cannabis, but um, it didn't become commonly used until around like 2022. And then at that point, studies showed that cannabis became more used on a day to day basis and in people's regular life routines. than alcohol. And we all know what the statistics say about alcohol, so that's a lot. Um, there was a historical increase in the young and middle aged community between the time of 2013 and 2021. There is no significant race trends when it comes to cannabis, which is like not surprising, but it is at the same time. Um, People who use cannabis, there is no level of like education that it stops at, because like um, usually most things that trend, are either more common amongst high school dropouts or college dropouts or kids or just things of that nature. Cannabis has no label on theirs. Any gender, any race, any level of education, anybody, seriously. So with that being said, when I said gender, um, it is shown that men are more likely to use than women are. That was one of the more consistent trends that we had with cannabis, was that you see it more in men, especially recreationally. For the portrayal of cannabis, it would be that one, initially when cannabis first came out and it was first like publicly and worldwide, countrywide known, it was seen as a dangerous drug or as a gateway drug. It was seen to create abuse, addiction, misuse, and it was also seen as something that could destroy your life. Um, Most people back then, when they seen someone using cannabis or forms of cannabis, they thought that they were people of a lower class or of a lower status. Um, like I said, once again, due to them thinking that they were lower, they were thinking you're already so low down that now you doing this is just going to destroy your life, essentially. However, over time, that portrayal changed and the view on cannabis did as well. Over time, cannabis became a recreational drug, but also a medically used drug. Cannabis is now legalized in over half of our states. Um, Cannabis is also seen now to be less harmful than alcohol, tobacco, or any of obviously the other Schedule 1, Schedule 2, Schedule 3 drugs. Um, with that being said, cannabis is now used amongst 14 million people. That number did go down because um, around like 2020, the number was like 25 million people. Um, so that did go down. Treatment for cannabis. Cannabis itself is already a treatment drug. Um, it is meant for treatment when it is not abused. Let me specify that. It is used to treat things such as pain, opioid use and abuse, anxiety, epilepsy, glaucoma, HIV and AIDS, inflammatory bowel disease, irritable bowel syndrome, movement disorders, sclerosis. It is also a treatment for people who go through issues with their cancer chemotherapy, PTSD, and sleeping problems as well. On top of that, obviously there is the possibility that people abuse cannabis, they misuse it, they become addicted. So the most common form, just as other Schedule 1 drugs, any scheduled type of drug, alcohol, tobacco, or anything else in life, when you want to prevent this and you want to get help, you seek programs out that specify and specifically go within that. Um, so obviously, for a person who would want to get help or we want to prevent their addiction and things, they would attend programs that are catered specifically to cannabis prevention. Um, and if they are already addicted and they want to seek help, rehab is always an option as well. Now we get on to the legalization of cannabis. Over the years, obviously, there were many times where things were put into place where they wanted to legalize cannabis or make certain uses of it acceptable. So some things that were put into place for the medical conditions of it, at least, and an attempt to further what it's for, was in 1961 the single conviction of narcotic drugs. In 1971, the Convention of Psychotropic Substances. In 1988, the Convention Against Illicit Traffic in Narcotic Drug and Psychotropic Substances. And then, obviously, in 2021, cannabis was rescheduled to a Schedule 1 under the Single Convention Treaty, because under this treaty it allowed the medical use of cannabis, but it still let it be known that it is a high risk of addiction and misuse. So now obviously we've all went through the whole voting process and everything of cannabis, but the main thing right now is that cannabis is legalized in 24 of our 50 states, 3 territories, and the District of Columbia. However, federally right now within our states, it is banned in 7 out of the 50. That is recreationally. Medically, right now, it is legalized in 38 of the 50 states, 4 territories, and the District of Columbia. However, medically, it is illegal on federal levels everywhere. Cannabis remains as a Schedule 1 drug federally, which prevents the medical use of it. However, under the FAR Amendment, it prevents federal enforcement in states that legalize the use of cannabis. And with this, the DEA and the DOJ are hoping to reschedule cannabis from a Schedule 1 drug to a Schedule 3 drug. Thank you for listening to my presentation. I hope that you learned something, and I hope that you enjoy.